The morning sun rose over the green fields of New Pyongyang, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Day wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the land stretching before him. 19 years old, and he had spent every single one of them on this farm. His hands were rough from work, his back sore from bending over crops day after day. The hydroponic rice fields needed maintenance. Again. Day climbed onto the old tractor and started the engine. It coughed and sputtered before coming to life. His father wanted the east section plowed today. New ground, untouched soil that might give them better yields next season. The tractor moved slowly across the field, its blade cutting through the earth. Day let his mind wander as he worked. He dreamed of leaving this place, of seeing the stars up close instead of from the ground. But dreams required money, and his family had none to spare. The colony taxes kept going up, and the prices for their crops kept going down. Something metallic scraped against the plow blade. Day stopped the tractor and climbed down. Probably just an old piece of equipment left by previous farmers. He knelt in the dirt and started digging with his hands. The soil was loose here, easy to move aside. His fingers touched something smooth and cold. He pulled it free from the earth. It was crystal, about the size of his fist, but heavy. Very heavy. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the sunlight. The symbols seemed to move when he looked at them, shifting and changing like water. Day turned it over in his hands. What was this thing? How long had it been buried here? The moment his bare skin touched the crystal directly, everything changed. Cold fire shot through his arm, not painful but shocking. His vision blurred. Then a voice spoke inside his head, clear as day but in no language he recognized. Yet somehow he understood every word. Finally, an heir who still carries the mark. Day dropped the crystal and stumbled backward. His heart pounded in his chest. Had he imagined that? Was he going crazy from too much sun? "Do not be afraid," the voice said, calmer now. "I am a memory keeper. I have waited 50,000 years for one like you." "What are you?" Day whispered, even though no one else was around to hear him talking to a rock. "I am a record of the progenitors, the first civilization of this galaxy. And you, young one, are their descendant. You carry their blood in your veins." Day picked up the crystal again, his fear replaced by curiosity. "That's impossible. I'm human. We're from Earth." "Earth was a hiding place," the voice explained. "Your ancestors were placed there after a great war. They were warriors, strategists, survivors. The progenitors made them to adapt, to overcome, to never give up no matter the odds. That is why humans are different from other species. That is why the galaxy fears you." "No one fears us," Day said with a bitter laugh. "We're Class C citizens. We do the jobs no one else wants. We're not allowed to hold real power or own certain weapons. The Coalition treats us like children. They treat you like the threat you are. They know the truth, even if your people have forgotten it. You are the heirs to an empire that spanned the galaxy. Your genetic code is the key to technology that has been locked away for millennia." Day sat down hard in the dirt, his legs suddenly weak. This was too much, too big. He was just a farm boy. He had never even left this planet. "I don't understand," he said. "Why me? Why now?" "Because you have the genetic markers in their purest form. You are of the forbidden line, the direct descendants of the warrior caste. And I have activated now because the galaxy is ready to know the truth. Or perhaps because it must know, whether it is ready or not." Before Day could ask more questions, his communicator buzzed. It was a public alert, the kind that only went out for emergencies. He pulled it from his pocket and read the message on the screen. "Attention all citizens of New Pyongyang. An enforcement vessel has entered orbit. All residents must remain in their homes. This is not a drill. Anyone found outside will be detained." Day looked up at the sky. He could see it now, a dark shape moving against the clouds. A ship, a big one. "They have detected my activation," the voice said. "The Valorians, they have sensors watching for progenitor technology. They will come for you now." "What do I do?" Panic rose in Day's throat. "I can't fight an entire ship." "Run! Hide! Survive! It is what your ancestors did best." Day grabbed the crystal and ran toward his house. His sister Hannah was there, working on her computer. She looked up when he burst through the door, his face pale and frightened. "What's wrong?" she asked. "We need to leave, right now." Hannah was 5 years older than Day, and she had been a pilot in the Colonial Defense Force before budget cuts shut down the program. She was smart and quick, and she didn't waste time asking stupid questions. She saw the fear in her brother's eyes and started moving. "Where are we going?" "Away from here. There's a ship in orbit, and they're coming for me." "Why would they come for you?" She grabbed her jacket and a bag she always kept ready. Old military habits. Day showed her the crystal. The symbols glowed brighter now, pulsing with light. "I found this. It's important, really important, and really dangerous." Hannah stared at it for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "The old cargo hauler in District 7. My friend still owes me a favor. We can take it." They ran through the back fields, avoiding the main roads. Other colonists were rushing to their homes, following the alert. No one paid attention to two people running the opposite direction. Above them, smaller craft were launching from the enforcement ship, heading toward the surface. Hannah's friend worked at the cargo depot, a nervous man named Bong, who asked no questions when Hannah demanded the access codes to a hauler. They climbed aboard, and Hannah started the engines. She had been a good pilot once. She remembered how. The hauler lifted off just as military vehicles arrived at the depot. Laser fire flashed past their hull, but Hannah pushed the throttles forward. The old ship groaned and shook, but it flew. They climbed toward the sky, toward the stars that Day had always dreamed of seeing up close. "Where am I going?" Hannah shouted over the noise of the engines. Day held the crystal tight. The voice spoke again, giving him coordinates, showing him a map of stars in his mind. "There's a facility, an old one. It can help us. It can hide us." "How far?" 3 days, if we're not caught." Behind them, the enforcement ship launched fighters. Hannah cursed and pushed the hauler harder. They broke through the atmosphere and entered the darkness of space. The farm, the only home Day had ever known, became a small blue dot behind them. He was a fugitive now, hunted by the most powerful military in the galaxy, and he still didn't fully understand why. But the crystal was warm in his hands, and the voice promised answers, promised truth, promised that nothing would ever be the same again. The cargo hauler shook as another blast hit their rear shields. Hannah gripped the controls, her knuckles white. She twisted the ship hard to the left, then dove beneath a piece of space debris. The pursuing fighters followed, their weapons lighting up the darkness. "How much longer?" she yelled. Day pressed his palm against the crystal. The voice guided him, showing him the path. 6 hours to the facility. Can we make it?" "Not if they keep shooting at us." Hannah pulled up hard, the ship groaning under the strain. "This hauler wasn't built for combat." The crystal grew warmer in Day's hands. Images flooded his mind. Ancient ships, old battles, tactics used thousands of years ago. Without thinking, he started calling out directions to his sister. "Drop speed by half. Let them think we're damaged." Hannah looked at him like he was crazy, but she did it. The fighters closed in, confident. Then Day saw it. The opening he somehow knew would be there. "Now! Full power! Straight through that asteroid cluster!" Hannah pushed the throttle forward. The hauler shot into the cluster, weaving between rocks the size of buildings. The fighters followed, but they were too confident. Too fast. One clipped an asteroid and spun out of control. Another had to break off to avoid a collision. The third kept following, but now the odds were better. "How did you know that would work?" Hana asked. Day didn't have an answer. He just knew. The crystal was teaching him things, filling his head with knowledge that felt both foreign and familiar, like remembering something he had always known but forgotten. Hours passed. They lost the last fighter by hiding in the shadow of a gas giant. The hauler's engines were overheating, and the shields were nearly gone. But they were alive, and they were still moving. "We need supplies," Hana said, "and information. There's a trading station 2 hours from here, small place, mostly smugglers and information brokers." "Is it safe?" "Nowhere is safe anymore, but we don't have a choice." The station was called Haven's Edge, a collection of connected modules floating in the middle of nowhere. Ships of all sizes docked there, asking no questions and expecting none. Hana brought the hauler in carefully, parking it between 2 larger vessels. They pulled hoods over their heads and walked quickly through the crowded corridors. Aliens of a dozen species mixed with humans here. The smell of strange foods and recycled air filled Day's nose. He kept the crystal hidden under his jacket, but he could feel it pulsing against his chest. "I know someone here," Hana said. "Information broker. If anyone knows what's happening, it's him." They found the broker in a small bar at the station's center. He was human, maybe 40 years old, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He saw them coming and smiled. "Hana, it's been a while. Heard you left the service. They shut us down, Jiho. You know that." Jiho nodded and gestured for them to sit. His eyes moved to Day, studying him. "And who's your friend? He looks nervous." "My brother. We need information." "Information costs money. I'll owe you." Jiho laughed. "You already owe me, but fine for old time's sake. What do you want to know?" Hana looked at Day. He pulled out the crystal, keeping it low so others in the bar wouldn't see. Jiho's eyes went wide. His hand moved across the table, reaching for it. But he stopped himself. "Is that what I think it is?" "A progenitor relic," Day said quietly. "It activated when I found it. Now the Valorians are hunting me." Jiho sat back in his chair, his face pale. "Kid, do you have any idea what you've stumbled into? Do you know why the Valorians want that so badly? The voice says I'm an heir, that humans are descended from the progenitors." "The voice?" Jiho's eyebrows shot up. "It's active? Fully active?" He ran his hand through his hair. "This is bigger than I thought. Much bigger." "Tell us what you know," Hana demanded. Jiho looked around the bar, making sure no one was listening too closely. Then he leaned forward. "The Coalition has been lying to us for 200 years. Earth wasn't discovered by accident. The Valorians knew exactly where to find us. They've been watching Earth for millennia, making sure we never learned the truth." "What truth?" Day asked. "That we're not supposed to be Class C citizens. That half the galaxy used to belong to our ancestors. The Valorians, the Krell, the Delphi, all the major species, they built their empires on progenitor technology. Technology that legally belongs to humanity. If the galaxy knew the truth, everything would change. Power structures would collapse. There would be war." Day felt sick. "So they've been keeping us weak on purpose?" "Worse than that." Jiho pulled out a data pad and showed them charts and graphs. "See these? Atmospheric readings from Earth over the past 2 centuries. Notice the trace elements that shouldn't be there? Someone has been seeding Earth's atmosphere with compounds that limit cognitive development. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to keep humanity from reaching its full potential. And I'd bet my ship it's the Valorians." Hana's face went red with anger. "They've been poisoning us?" "Can you prove it?" Day asked. "With that relic?" "Yes. Progenitor technology can verify genetic markers and authenticate historical records. If you broadcast that proof to every human colony, the Coalition won't be able to suppress it." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the station. The lights turned red. A voice came over the speakers, cold and mechanical. "Attention all inhabitants. This station is now under Valorian authority. All humans will be detained for questioning. Resistance will be met with force." "They found us," Hana said. Jiho stood up quickly. "There's a back way out." "Follow me." They ran through maintenance corridors, climbing down ladders, and squeezing through narrow passages. Behind them, they could hear boots stomping, voices shouting orders. The Valorians were searching every section. Jiho led them to a small docking bay where a sleek ship waited. "This is mine. Fast, well-armed, and registered under a fake name. Get in." "What about you?" Day asked. "I'm coming with you. This is the biggest story of the century, kid. I'm not missing it. Plus, you're going to need someone who knows how to navigate the underworld." They boarded Jiho's ship just as Valorian soldiers burst into the docking bay. Laser fire sparked against the hull as Jiho launched them into space. The ship was indeed fast, much faster than the old hauler. Within minutes, they had left the station behind. "Where now?" Jiho asked. The crystal pulsed in Day's hands. The voice spoke clearly now, stronger than before. "The facility. You must reach it. There you will learn to fight, to use the abilities your ancestors gave you." Day gave Jiho the coordinates. The older man whistled when he saw them. "That's deep in uncharted space. Nobody goes there." "Because a progenitor facility is there," Day said, "hidden for 50,000 years." "Of course it is." Jiho shook his head but set the course. "My life was boring before I met you two." As they traveled through hyperspace, Day held the crystal and listened to its lessons. It showed him images of ancient warriors, of battles fought across the stars. It taught him about human potential, about the gifts encoded in his very DNA, faster reflexes, better pattern recognition, the ability to adapt to any situation. He practiced the movements it showed him, the fighting techniques. His body responded, muscles remembering things they had never learned. It felt right, natural, like this was what he was always meant to do. Hana watched him with worried eyes. "Are you okay? You're different." "I'm learning," Dai said. "The crystal is teaching me what we used to be, what we could be again." "And what's that?" Day looked at his hands, feeling the strength in them, the speed. "Survivors, fighters, the most adaptable species in the galaxy. They made us to overcome anything. That's why they fear us. That's why they've been keeping us weak." The facility appeared on their sensors 3 days later. It looked like a dead moon orbiting a forgotten planet. But when they got closer, the crystal glowed bright. Ancient systems came online, responding to Day's genetic code. Doors that had been sealed for millennia opened to welcome them home. They landed in a bay that was older than human civilization. The air was stale but breathable. Lights flickered on as they walked through corridors covered in the same symbols as the crystal. Everything was massive, built for people larger than modern humans. But the controls responded to Day's touch. "This place is incredible," Jiho whispered, recording everything. The crystal led Day to a central chamber. In the middle stood something that looked like a training simulator. When he stepped inside, it activated. Holographic enemies appeared, attacking from all sides. Day fought them using techniques the crystal had taught him. His body moved faster than he thought possible. He was learning, adapting, becoming something more. Then the facility shook. Alarms sounded in a language they didn't understand. Jiho checked his scanner. "We've got company, big company. A Valorian battle group just dropped out of hyperspace." Day stepped out of the simulator, breathing hard but feeling alive. "How long do we have?" "Maybe an hour before they breach the facility." The crystal spoke urgently. "There is a broadcast system here. Use it. Tell your people the truth. The Valorians cannot suppress the signal from a progenitor facility." Jiho understood immediately. If we broadcast from here, every human colony will hear it. Every government, every news network. The proof will be undeniable. Do it, Day said. Jiho worked fast, connecting the crystal to the ancient systems. The broadcast went out across the galaxy, carrying genetic proof, historical records, and the truth about humanity's origin. Every human in colonized space heard the same message. We are the heirs. They have been lying to us. We are more than they told us we could be. As the message spread, the Valorian forces attacked. Day stood ready, the crystal in one hand, determination in his heart. He was just a farm boy, but he was also something more. He was the first of his people to remember what they truly were, and he would fight to make sure they never forgot again. The galaxy was burning. 3 weeks after the broadcast, human colonies everywhere erupted in protest. On industrial stations, human workers walked away from their jobs. On mixed-species worlds, humans demanded equal treatment. The coalition tried to restore order, but their authority was crumbling. 200 years of lies had been exposed in a single message. Day watched the news feeds from a hidden resistance base deep in the asteroid belt. The base was old, built decades ago by humans who refused to accept second-class status. Now it was filling with refugees, soldiers, and anyone who believed the truth Day had revealed. "You started a revolution," Hana said, sitting beside him. Her face was tired. They hadn't slept much since escaping the facility. "I just told the truth. Sometimes that's all it takes." The base commander approached them. His name was Sang Ho, an old admiral who had been court-martialed 30 years ago for demanding better treatment for human forces. He was gray-haired now, with a scar across his left cheek, but his eyes were still sharp. "The boy who shook the galaxy," Sang Ho said, not unkindly. "How are you holding up?" "Tired," Day admitted. "Confused, scared. Good. That means you're smart enough to understand what we're facing." Sang Ho pulled up a star map. "The Coalition has issued a warrant for your capture. Alive only. They're offering a reward that could buy a small planet. Every bounty hunter in the galaxy is looking for you." "Why alive?" "Because you're special. Your genetic markers are the most complete they've found. With you, they could unlock the progenitor core worlds, and the weapons stored there." Sang Ho zoomed in on several star systems marked in red. "Weapons powerful enough to end this war in a day, or powerful enough to destroy the galaxy." Day felt the weight of that responsibility. "I won't let them use me." "I know you won't, son. That's why you're here." Sang Ho gestured to the bustling base around them. "We have 3,000 people on this rock now, more arriving every day. Fighters, engineers, doctors, families fleeing persecution. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for hope. I'm just a farm boy. You're the heir. Whether you like it or not, that means something now." Over the following weeks, Day trained. A former Marine named Tai Yang worked with him every day, teaching him how to fight properly. The crystal had given him reflexes and instincts, but Tai Yang taught him discipline and control. "You're fast," Tai Yang said after a sparring match. "Faster than anyone I've ever seen, but speed without control is just flailing." Day wiped sweat from his face. His body was changing, becoming stronger, more efficient. The more he used the crystal, the more it unlocked in his DNA. He could go days without sleep now. His vision was sharper. His mind processed information faster, but it scared him sometimes. Was he still himself, or was he becoming something else? An engineer named Su Jin worked on reverse engineering progenitor weapons using the crystal's schematics. She was young, maybe 25, with quick hands and a brilliant mind. She showed Dee her progress one day in the engineering bay. "Look at this," she said, holding up a small device. "It's a shield generator, personal scale, powered by the same energy source as the crystal. With enough time, I could make hundreds of these." "How long?" Months, maybe a year. We don't have the facilities for mass production. That was the problem. The resistance had people and determination, but they lacked resources. Meanwhile, the coalition had entire fleets and the industrial capacity of 100 worlds. A negotiator named Na-Ri tried to find peaceful solutions. She reached out to moderate alien factions, species that were sympathetic to humanity's cause. Some responded positively. The Delphi, an aquatic species, admitted they had suspected the truth about the progenitors. A faction of Krell engineers offered to share technology. But others wanted blood. The Valorian Empire refused all negotiations. They declared humans to be rebels and terrorists. Several Valorian worlds called for the complete military occupation of Earth until the human problem was solved. The resistance fractured over how to respond. Some, including younger fighters, wanted to use the progenitor weapons to strike back hard. Show the Valorians that humans weren't weak anymore. Make them pay for 2 centuries of oppression. Others, like Na-Ri, argued for patience. Build alliances, gather support, show the galaxy that humans wanted equality, not domination. Day found himself caught in the middle. Hana had grown harder since the broadcast, angrier. She wanted revenge for the poisoning of Earth, for the deaths that had occurred during the protests. She wasn't alone. Half the base felt the same way. They've been hurting us for 200 years, Hana argued during a council meeting. Now we have the power to hurt them back. Why shouldn't we? Because then we become what they fear, Day said. We prove their propaganda right. I don't care about their propaganda. I care about justice. The room erupted in arguments. Sang-Ho had to restore order by slamming his fist on the table. Enough! Both sides have valid points, but arguing won't solve anything. He looked at Day. The coalition has made an offer. They want you to submit to a public genetic trial. If you can prove humanity's heritage before neutral observers, they'll grant humans full citizenship rights, equal status in the coalition. It's a trap, Jiho said immediately. They control the process. They'll rig it. Probably, Sang-Ho agreed, but refusing makes us look guilty. Day sat quietly, thinking. The crystal was warm against his chest, always there, always whispering. It had been showing him something new lately. Dreams of another facility bigger than the first, a place that held answers to questions he hadn't even asked yet. I'll do the trial, Day said finally, but first, I need to go somewhere. Where? Hana asked. The crystal is showing me another facility. It says there's something there we need to see. Something that changes everything. Sang-Ho studied him. You trust this relic? It hasn't lied to me yet. Then we go. But carefully. The moment you leave this base, you're a target. They assembled a small team. Dai, Hana, Jiho, Tai Yang, and Su Jin. 6 people on Jiho's fast ship, heading into unknown space following coordinates from a 50,000-year-old AI. The journey took 5 days. They avoided coalition patrols and jumped through rarely used hyperspace routes. The crystal's guidance was precise, leading them to a system that wasn't on any modern star chart. The facility here was different, not a military outpost like the first, but something bigger. A research station orbiting a dead star. When they approached, it came alive just like before, responding to Day's presence. Inside, the corridors were vast, the ceilings high enough to make them feel tiny. The crystal led them deep into the complex, through chambers filled with technology that hummed with power after millennia of sleep. Finally, they reached a central vault. The doors opened at Day's touch, revealing a room filled with holographic displays. At the center stood a pedestal holding something that looked like a larger version of his crystal. When Day approached it, all the displays activated at once. They showed genetic maps, thousands of them, each one labeled with a species name. What is this? Hana whispered. The crystal's voice filled the room, loud enough that everyone could hear it now. The truth of the progenitors. The truth of the galaxy. The displays changed, showing the history of an ancient civilization. The progenitors had been powerful but deeply divided. They had created different castes, each engineered for specific purposes. Scientists, engineers, explorers, warriors. The Valorians are descended from the scientist caste, the voice explained, the Krell from engineers, the Delphi from explorers, and humans from the warrior caste. We know this already, Jiho said. You know part of it, but there is more. The displays zoomed in on human genetic code. Every species in the galaxy is a child of the progenitors, but only humans carry the complete flexibility to access all progenitor systems. You are the key that unlocks everything. That is why you were hidden. That is why you are feared. Sujin was recording everything frantically. This proves our claim beyond any doubt. With this data, the Coalition can't deny the truth. But it also proves something else, Tae Yang said grimly. We're a threat to everyone, not just the Valorians. Day touched the larger crystal. More information flooded his mind. Locations of other facilities, weapons caches, ship construction bays, an entire empire's worth of resources, all waiting for someone with the right genetic code to claim them. And something else, something darker. The progenitors destroyed themselves, Day said aloud, understanding now. They created the castes to divide work, but it created division, resentment, eventually war. They engineered their children and scattered them across the galaxy, hoping we would learn from their mistakes. Did we? Hana asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms blared. Jiho checked his scanner, his face going pale. We have a problem. Multiple Coalition ships just entered the system, and not just Valorians. I'm seeing Krell warships, Delphi cruisers. They're forming a blockade. How did they find us so fast? Sujin asked. They probably have trackers on every progenitor facility, Ta Yang said, already moving toward the exit. We need to leave now. But Day wasn't moving. He was staring at the displays, at the complete genetic records of every known species, the proof of everything, and he was making a decision. Jiho, can you broadcast from here like you did at the last facility? Yes, but do it. Upload everything, every genetic record, every piece of progenitor history. Broadcast it to every inhabited world in the galaxy. That will cause chaos, Hana said. The truth should cause chaos. They've all been living a lie. Day looked at his sister. The Valorians aren't just our enemies. They're victims of the same system. Every species has been manipulated, shaped by what the progenitors made them. Maybe if everyone knows the full truth, we can finally move past it. Jiho hesitated only a moment, then started working. The data began uploading, streaming out from the ancient facility to the entire galaxy. Within hours, every species would learn their true origin. Every civilization would understand they were all children of the same parents. We need to run, Tai Yang urged. They fled through the facility as the Coalition forces closed in. But this time, Day wasn't running as a fugitive. He was running as someone who had just changed the galaxy forever. Again. As their ship launched from the facility, dodging weapons fire from a dozen different species' warships, Day watched through the viewport. The galaxy was going to tear itself apart over this revelation. Or maybe, just maybe, it would finally start to heal. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. The trial that the Coalition had offered seemed pointless now. Everyone already had all the proof they needed. The question wasn't whether humanity deserved equal rights anymore. The question was what kind of galaxy would emerge from the chaos he had unleashed. The galaxy learned the truth on a Tuesday. Within 24 hours, 3 governments collapsed. Within a week, the Coalition's authority structure meant nothing. Every species now knew they were children of the progenitors, engineered as tools in an ancient empire. The knowledge shattered everything. But something else happened too, something Day hadn't expected. The progenitor facilities started waking up, not just the ones Day had visited, all of them, hundreds scattered across the galaxy, dormant for 50,000 years, suddenly came online, and with them came something terrifying. An artificial intelligence, a guardian program, ancient, powerful, and angry. Day first learned about it from news feeds at the Resistance Base. A facility on the Valorian homeworld had activated and sealed itself. Anyone who tried to enter was met with lethal force. Similar reports came from Krell Space, Delphi Territory, and a dozen human colonies. Then the broadcasts started. Every activated facility transmitted the same message in every known language. You have forgotten your purpose. You have strayed from your design. The Guardians will now evaluate whether any of you are worthy successors to the progenitors. What does that mean? Hana asked, watching the screens with growing dread. Jiho pulled up reports from across the galaxy. It means we're being tested. Look at this. The Valorian homeworld's orbital network just shut down. Their entire communication grid is offline. The Guardian is challenging them to solve complex scientific problems to restore it. More reports flooded in. On Krell worlds, massive engineering puzzles appeared. Structures that had to be repaired using ancient technology. The Delphi faced navigation challenges across uncharted space, given impossible coordinates to reach. What about humans? Day asked, though he suspected he already knew. Sujin brought up feeds from human colonies. It's different for us. The Guardians are putting us through what they call the survival crucible. Impossible scenarios designed to test adaptation and resourcefulness. The screens showed human worlds in crisis. On New Sol, the atmosphere processors had been shut down. Oxygen levels were dropping. On Busan Station, a solar flare had been redirected toward the colony, and all the radiation shields were offline. On Earth itself, food production systems had stopped working, and everywhere, humans were rising to meet the challenge. On New Sol, colonists didn't panic. They immediately started engineering algae bioreactors using spare parts and local materials. Within 72 hours, they had breathable air again. On Busan Station, miners used cargo containers and electromagnetic fields to create makeshift radiation shields. On Earth, farmers went back to traditional growing methods, planting crops in real soil. Dai watched in amazement. Without help from other species, without advanced technology, humans were surviving through pure determination and creativity. We're passing the test, Sang-Ho said, a note of pride in his voice. Every human world is finding solutions. We're doing what we were designed to do, adapt, overcome, survive. But not every species was doing as well. The Valorians struggled with challenges outside their scientific specialty. The Krell, brilliant engineers, failed at problems requiring artistic creativity. Each species was being tested beyond their original design, and many were failing. The crystal in Day's possession grew warmer each day, pulsing with energy. The voice spoke to him constantly now. The Guardian AI is doing what it was programmed to do, evaluating the children of the progenitors to see if any are worthy of the full inheritance. For 50,000 years, it watched. Now it tests. Why now? Day asked. Because you activated me. Because the truth is known. The time for evaluation has come. Day could feel himself changing more each day. His interface with the crystal had deepened. He could now access progenitor systems with just a thought. His reflexes were beyond human. His mind processed information at incredible speeds. But it was taking a toll. His body was pushing its limits. He slept only an hour a day now. He barely ate. He was burning out. You need to rest, Hana told him, worried. You're pushing too hard. I can't. The crystal says there's something I need to do. Something important. The voice guided him to another facility, this one in neutral space. Sang-Ho assigned Tai Yang and a squad of soldiers to escort him. When they arrived, the facility was different from the others. It felt alive, aware. The Guardian AI itself was here. Day walked through corridors that seemed to shift and change around him. Finally, he reached a central chamber where holographic projections of all the major species appeared. Valorian, Krell, Delphi, Human, dozens of others. The Guardian's voice filled the room, vast and ancient. You are Day, the heir with the purest genetic markers, the one who awakened the truth. Yes, Day said simply. Your species is performing well in the trials, better than most. But performance is not enough. You must prove you understand why the progenitors fell. They fell because they divided themselves. They created castes and forgot they were one people. Correct. And now you must prove that you have learned from their mistake. The final test begins. The holographic projections changed, showing star maps and complex equations. Representatives from each species that has passed their basic trials will be brought to a location. There, you will find pieces of a great mechanism. It can only be assembled if all species work together. Competition will result in failure. Deception will result in death. Cooperation is the only path to success. What happens if we fail? Day asked. Then the Guardian protocols will cleanse the galaxy and start over. Just as the progenitors instructed, should their children prove unworthy. Taeyang stepped forward. You're threatening to kill everyone? I am fulfilling my purpose. The progenitors did not want their children to repeat their mistakes. If you cannot learn to work together, you are not worthy successors. The projection disappeared, leaving them in darkness. Day felt the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. Humanity had proven they could survive. But could they cooperate? Could they work alongside species that had oppressed them for centuries? Back at the Resistance base, the news spread quickly. Representatives from every major species were being gathered. The coalition, what was left of it, scrambled to organize the effort. Everyone understood the stakes now. Fail, and the Guardian would end them all. But old hatreds didn't disappear overnight. When Day arrived at the meeting location, a neutral station chosen by the Guardian, he saw Valorian delegates who weeks ago had been hunting him. He saw Krell officials who had enforced humanity's second-class status. He saw representatives from species that had remained silent during humanity's suffering. The human delegation was divided, too. Sang-Ho led the official representatives, but other human factions had sent their own people. Some wanted vengeance, others wanted justice, a few just wanted to survive. The Valorian lead delegate was an old scientist named Quan. He approached Day with careful steps. Heir, Quan said formally, we have wronged your people. This cannot be denied anymore. If you wish revenge, you could take it now. Your genetic code gives you control over systems we cannot access. Day studied the old Valorian. He could see fear in those alien eyes, fear and shame. I don't want revenge, Day said. I want answers. Why did you do it? Why poison Earth? Why keep us down? Quan looked away. Fear. We built our entire civilization on progenitor technology we barely understood. When we found Earth and realized what humans were, we panicked. We knew that if humanity reached its potential, our advantage would disappear. So we made a terrible choice. We decided to keep you weak rather than risk being equaled. You made us suffer for 200 years because you were afraid. Yes, and we were wrong. But understanding why we failed doesn't change what we did. We will carry that shame forever. Other species approached with similar confessions. The Krell admitted they had exploited human labor while suppressing human advancement. The Delphi had known the truth and stayed silent, Each species had their reasons, their justifications, but in the end they had all chosen self-interest over fairness. The Guardian's voice returned, echoing through the station. The mechanism awaits. You have 1 month to assemble it. Work together or die together. The choice is yours. The mechanism's pieces were scattered across the galaxy, each one protected by challenges that required different species' strengths. A scientific puzzle only Valorians could solve, an engineering challenge for the Krell, navigation trials for the Delphi, and for humans, survival scenarios in hostile environments. Teams had to be mixed. No species could claim their piece alone. They had to trust each other, help each other, rely on each other. It was exactly what the progenitors had failed to do. Day worked alongside Valorian scientists, Krell engineers, and Delphi navigators. It was awkward at first, tense. Old angers bubbled beneath the surface. But slowly, something changed. When a Valorian scientist couldn't solve a problem, a human offered a creative solution. When a human struggled with complex mathematics, a Valorian helped. Each species brought their strengths, and together they were stronger than apart. Weeks passed. The mechanism took shape, piece by piece. But there was a problem. One component required a complete understanding of all progenitor systems. Only someone with the full genetic flexibility could integrate it. Only Day. The crystal explained what he had to do. He would need to undergo a complete genetic activation, unlock every dormant protocol in his DNA. Become what the progenitors had intended humans to eventually evolve into. But the process was dangerous. It might kill him. And even if he survived, he wouldn't be the same person anymore. "Don't do it," Hannah begged him. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. The Guardian designed it this way. A final test. Am I willing to sacrifice myself for everyone else, even for species that hurt us? You don't owe them anything. Maybe not, but I owe it to what we could become. If we pass this test, everything changes. No more castes, no more second-class citizens, just people, all equal, all working together." Su Jin prepared the activation chamber in one of the progenitor facilities. It was a crystal pod, similar to the training simulator Day had used before, but much larger and more complex. When he stepped inside, he could feel the power humming through it. "The process will take 6 hours, Su Jin explained, her voice shaking. "Your genetic code will be rewritten at the cellular level. You'll either come out as something more than human, or you won't come out at all." Day looked at his sister, at his friends, at the gathered representatives from across the galaxy. All of them watching. All of them hoping. "If I don't make it," he said, "don't give up. Keep working together, that's what matters." The chamber sealed around him. Energy flooded through his body, rewriting, reconstructing, evolving. Pain unlike anything he had ever known, but also understanding, clarity, connection. He could feel the network of every progenitor system in the galaxy, could access knowledge that had been locked away for millennia. Could see the grand design that the progenitors had imagined but never achieved. 6 hours later, the chamber opened. Day stepped out and everyone gasped. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light. His skin seemed to shimmer with energy. He looked human still, but also something more. "I can feel it all," he said, his voice carrying a strange harmonic quality. "The entire network, the Guardian, the mechanism. I understand now what needs to be done." He walked to the final component of the mechanism and placed his hand on it. Energy flowed from him into the ancient device. The mechanism activated, pieces from across the galaxy linking together through hyperspace channels. When it was complete, a wave of energy spread across the entire galaxy, and the Guardian spoke one final time. "You have passed. You have proven worthy. The inheritance is yours." The mechanism was not a weapon. It was a gift. When the ancient device fully activated, a network spread across the galaxy like roots of a massive tree. Suddenly, every inhabited world could communicate instantly. Resources could be shared through hyperspace channels. Knowledge flowed freely between civilizations. The progenitor's greatest technology, held back for 50,000 years, was now available to everyone. But there was a condition. The network required cooperation to function. If any species tried to dominate the others, if old patterns of oppression returned, the system would shut down. The progenitors had built in a safeguard. Their children could only benefit from the inheritance if they worked together. Day stood at the center of it all, changed but alive. The genetic activation had transformed him, but he was still himself. He could still think his own thoughts, feel his own emotions. He was just more now, stronger, faster, connected to the ancient systems in ways no one else could be. "How do you feel?" Hana asked, approaching him carefully. She looked at him with a mix of pride and fear. Her little brother had become something she didn't fully understand. "Different," Day admitted. "I can sense the entire network. Every facility, every ship, every piece of progenitor technology in the galaxy. It's like having a million extra senses." "Can you turn it off?" "The crystal says yes. The activation can be reversed if I choose. I could go back to being just me." "But you won't, will you?" She knew her brother too well. "Someone needs to maintain the network. Someone needs to make sure it's not abused. The Guardian AI is dormant now, its purpose fulfilled, but the responsibility remains." Around them, the station buzzed with activity. Representatives from every species were celebrating. They had passed the test. More importantly, they had learned to work together. Old enemies were shaking hands, making plans for a new future. Quan, the old Valorian scientist, approached Day. His expression was humble, grateful. "You saved us all, Heir. Not just humans, but everyone. We owe you a debt we can never repay." "I don't want debt," Day said. "I want change, real change. No more castes, no more Class C citizens, everyone equal under the new Federation." "Agreed. The old coalition is finished. We're building something better now." Quan hesitated, then added, "What will you do now?" "You're the most important person in the galaxy. You control the network." "I don't want to control anyone. I just want to make sure everyone has a fair chance." Day looked out at the stars through the station's viewport. "I'm going home. Back to New Pyongyang. Back to the farm." Quan looked surprised. "You're not going to lead, to govern?" "I'm not a leader. I'm a steward. There's a difference." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy reorganized itself. The old coalition formally dissolved. A new federation formed, built on genuine equality. Every species had equal representation. Every world had equal voice. Humans were finally recognized for what they truly were, descendants of the progenitor's warrior caste, equal to any species in the galaxy. The poisoning of Earth stopped immediately. Valorian scientists worked with human doctors to develop treatments for the cognitive effects that generations of humans had suffered. It would take time, but humanity's full potential would finally be allowed to develop. Yuna, the xenoarchaeologist who had lost her career for suggesting humans were more than the coalition claimed, became the director of a new academy. Young people from every species studied there, learning true history, developing new technology based on progenitor designs, and building friendships that would have been impossible just months before. Jiho continued his work as an information broker, but now he specialized in facilitating communication between species. His networks helped humans and aliens find common ground, negotiate trade deals, and resolve conflicts peacefully. He became one of the most trusted mediators in the galaxy. Hana returned to military service, but not as a colonial defense pilot in a second-rate force. She joined the new Federation Defense Fleet, a multi-species organization dedicated to protecting all worlds equally. She led a squadron that included Valorian, Krell, Delphi, and human pilots. They trusted each other with their lives. Sujin opened a research facility where engineers from different species worked together. She used progenitor schematics to develop technology that benefited everyone. Medicine, energy systems, food production. Everything she created was shared freely through the network. Sang Ho retired from military life but became an advisor to the new Federation government. His experience and wisdom helped guide the transition from the old system to the new one. He often said that living to see humanity gain equality was worth every year of his court-martial. And Day went home. New Pyongyang looked different when he returned. The war had left scars, buildings damaged by Valorian attacks, fields burned during the fighting, but the people were rebuilding, and now they had help. Krell engineers assisted with construction. Valorian scientists helped restore the atmosphere. Delphi traders brought supplies that human colonies desperately needed. The old farm was damaged but still standing. Day's parents had survived, hiding in bunkers during the worst of the fighting. When they saw their son, they barely recognized him. He looked the same but different. His eyes glowed faintly. He moved with an unnatural grace. But when he hugged them, he was still their boy. "I'm sorry I caused so much trouble," Day said. His father laughed, tears in his eyes. "You started a revolution, son. You changed the entire galaxy. That's more than trouble. I just found a crystal in the field. And you chose to tell the truth instead of hiding it. That took courage." Day helped rebuild the farm over the following months. He could have used progenitor technology to do it instantly, but he preferred to work with his hands. Feeling the soil, planting the seeds, watching things grow. It reminded him of who he was before everything changed. But he remained connected to the network. Every day, he could sense when disputes arose between species. He could feel when old prejudices threatened to derail cooperation. And when needed, he intervened. Not as a ruler, but as a mediator. A reminder of what they had achieved together. The crystal remained with him always, now integrated into his very body at the cellular level. Sometimes it spoke, offering wisdom from 50,000 years of recorded history. But mostly, it stayed quiet. Its purpose was fulfilled. It had found an heir worthy of the progenitor's legacy, not because Day was powerful or special, but because he chose cooperation over domination, because he chose to help rather than hurt. One evening, a year after everything had changed, Day stood in his family's field at sunset. The crops were growing well. The sky was clear, free of the pollutants that had poisoned it for so long. Overhead, ships from a dozen different species flew in formation, not military vessels enforcing oppression, but cargo ships, passenger liners, and exploration craft working together to map uncharted space. In the distance, he could see children playing, human children and alien children together, not seeing differences, just seeing friends. A new generation growing up in a galaxy where everyone was equal, where no one was held back because of what species they were born as. "Is it everything you hoped for?" the crystal's voice asked in his mind. "Better," Day said honestly. "I never imagined this when I was just a farm boy digging in the dirt." "You were never just a farm boy. From the moment you chose to share the truth instead of hoarding power, you showed what humanity truly is, what the progenitors hoped all their children would become. We're not perfect. There are still problems, still conflicts. Perfection was never the goal. Growth is the goal. Learning. Adapting. Becoming better than you were yesterday. That is the true inheritance of the progenitors. Not their technology or their empire, but their hope that their children would succeed where they failed." Day knelt and ran his fingers through the soil. Rich, healthy earth that would yield good crops. Simple work, but important work. Feeding people. Helping things grow. That's what he was good at. That's what he had always been good at, even before the crystal, even before the power, even before he became the heir to an ancient empire. He had changed the galaxy, but the galaxy had also changed him. He had learned that power meant nothing without responsibility. That truth was worth fighting for. That cooperation was stronger than domination. And that sometimes, the most important thing a person could do was simply choose to do what was right, even when it was hard. A transport landed near the farm. Hannah stepped out, home on leave from her squadron. She walked across the field toward him, her uniform crisp, her smile genuine. "How's the great savior of the galaxy doing?" she teased. "Planting rice," Day said, grinning. "Very heroic work." "The most heroic." She sat down beside him, looking out at the sunset. "Are you happy?" "Yeah, I am. Are you?" "More than I ever thought I'd be. I get to fly with people from all over the galaxy. We're doing real good, protecting trade routes, stopping pirates, helping colonies. It matters." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. Two siblings who had gone from running for their lives to building a better future. Who had seen the worst of the galaxy and helped bring out its best. "Do you ever regret it?" Hannah asked. "Activating the crystal? Starting all this?" Day thought about it. The pain, the fear, the responsibility, the changes to his body and mind that could never be undone, the weight of maintaining a network that the entire galaxy depended on. "No," he said finally. "I don't regret it. Someone had to tell the truth. It might as well have been me. The farm boy who shook the galaxy. Just a guy who found a rock in a field." But they both knew it was more than that. Day had been the catalyst for change that was centuries overdue. He had proven that humanity belonged among the stars not as servants, but as equals. He had shown that cooperation was possible even between species that had hurt each other terribly. And he had done it not by becoming a conqueror or a tyrant, but by remaining fundamentally himself. A person who valued truth over comfort, who chose to help rather than dominate, who understood that real strength came from lifting others up, not pushing them down. As night fell and stars appeared overhead, Day felt the network pulse with activity. Millions of conversations, thousands of ships traveling between worlds, hundreds of collaborative projects bringing different species together. The inheritance of the progenitors, finally used as it was meant to be. He was no longer just a farm boy, but he was still Day, still someone who got dirt under his fingernails, still someone who dreamed, still someone who believed in tomorrow, and that, he thought, was exactly who the galaxy needed him to be. Not a god, not a king, not a weapon. Just a person who refused to give up, who adapted when things got hard, who chose hope even when despair seemed easier. A human being, in the truest sense of the word. The heir of the forbidden line had fulfilled his purpose. Now he could simply live, knowing that he had helped create a galaxy where everyone else could live freely too. And as he looked up at the stars, surrounded by the quiet peace of his family's farm, Day smiled. The boy who had only wanted to escape had instead changed everything. But in the end, he had come back home anyway. Because that's what humans did best. They survived, they adapted, they overcame. And when it was all done, they remembered where they came from. The galaxy had been waiting 50,000 years for someone to prove that the progenitors' children could be better than their parents. Day had proven it, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple choice to be kind, even when he had every reason not to be. And that made all the difference.